Welcome in on this Thursday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Welcome to Live Impact Weather tonight. We're talking, guess what, about heat. That is going to be a big topic of our show tonight. So popular last night, we're going to talk about Dew Point again.
Back by popular
yes,
demand.
Team Dew Point was very popular online yesterday, so glad to see many of you are joining the coalition of Team Dew Point there. We're going to talk about corn sweat, which is pretty cool. I'm glad Tim and I are going to talk. I'm from the Midwest, so I'm very familiar with this. If you're not from the Midwest, this is something that'll be really interesting to you. But everybody in the Carolinas, obviously, the talk of the town is the building heat wave. And we're going to start with the current conditions because it's actually, I don't want to say cool. Let's call it not as hot because low 90s, this is kind of normal. I went on a little bit of a rant on my Facebook page today, and because I do get frustrated with people who, when we get this extreme heat, they just say, oh, it's just summer. Well, today is just summer. This is normal heat, all right? Low 90s feels like it's mid 90s to 100. Yeah, that's what you expect in the Southeast. It's still above normal, by the way. The average high is 90. So we were 4 degrees above today. But what's heading our way this weekend is honestly the hottest stretch of weather we have seen maybe all time. I mean, we're talking about a 7-day stretch of weather that could be an all-timer with 100-degree heat. And that's the story. It's not the feel-like reading. It's actually going to be 100 for the air temperature. So even before you factor in the dew points, we're going to be feeling like 100. You throw in just a little bit of humidity. You don't need a bunch, and it's going to feel like 105 to 110. That's why 7 days of heat indices above 105 are possible. The other thing about this stays dry. I talked yesterday about this a lot on air, that I was suspicious that we were going to see the drought monitor come out, and sure enough, it updated today like it does every Thursday, if you're ever wondering. The drought monitor came out, and it did expand quite a bit. We saw abnormally dry conditions, and if you've seen your lawn, this is probably not a shock to you. Two things I've noticed: my lawn is bone dry. My sycamore tree, which I love in my backyard, I planted it after it got a bunch of trees got torn out by the tornado in 2020. Every single leaf is off the tree. Now, most people would freak out, but I know this tree very well. That's its defense mechanism. It'll shed its leaves when there's dry, hot weather, and they will grow back once we get some moisture and some cooler temperatures. But you might notice a lot of plants really looking wilted or just struggling out there. It's because it is dry, but it's also heat stress. Remember, the drought monitor takes in not just rainfall, it takes in soil moisture, stream flows, groundwater, wildfire risk, crop stress, as well as water restrictions and other things. It's a lot of impact driven. It's great for us because that's what we're focused on, weather impacts. It's just not rainfall. You could have above average rainfall and still be in a drought if you get into a stretch where other factors come into play. And you actually could be below average in rainfall and end up not in a drought because there's not many factors. That happens a lot in the wintertime because the plants aren't using moisture that time of year, so don't worry about it. Crazy streak that we're currently in. If you've noticed this, we haven't dropped below 70 degrees for a low in 33 days. Okay?
Ouch.
33 consecutive days, it has not been below 70. That means we haven't seen the 60s since the middle of June. That's the longest streak on record going back to 1870. So we've got some crazy streaks ongoing. We're going to be adding to this. Tonight, obviously not going to drop into the 60s unless you're in the mountains, mid-70s in Charlotte. And tomorrow, this is kind of the beginning. 97, that's definitely going to be hot, but that'll be probably the coolest day we see until next weekend. So as I mentioned, I hate using the word cool sometimes in these setups. I'm just going to say not as hot when it's not as hot as the day before, relatively speaking. Dew points, boy, I was optimistic that it might stay a little bit drier than this. And there's still a thing we call mixing out. In the afternoon, when the heating of the day, the atmosphere can mix up a little bit and drier air from the mid-levels can work down. So sometimes you can see the dew points mix out in the afternoon, but right now the forecast has most of the dew points pretty consistently in the upper 60s and near 70. Now, if it was 90 degrees out, that wouldn't be too bad. It would be muggy, it would be humid, kind of typical. But when we're going to be near 100, that's going to make the feel-like readings just ridiculous. And you'll see the heat dome building over us. You'll hear that term a lot. By the way, it's not a new term. We've used it in meteorology for a long time. If you've ever chased storms or watched chasers, they used to call it the death ridge sets up. Now, the death ridge has got a couple of meanings, by the way. For chasers, it meant it kind of killed all the chances for storms to chase. But in the plains, the farmers used that term quite a bit because the death ridge meant hot, dry weather, which killed their livestock. So the heat domes and these death ridges actually have a long history of causing droughts and heat waves like we're going to see. The lack of rain is going to be noticeable. 7-day rainfall forecast, when you only see a tenth of an inch or a hundredth of an inch over 7 days and you're in the middle of a heat wave, remember, the plants are starving for moisture. It's so hot they're using more. Evaporation rates are through the roof. The fact that we're getting no rain at all is going to make this even worse. So the 3-day heat impacts, major tomorrow, which would be bad enough. But then we go into Saturday, we start seeing these purples. The purples are extreme. Normally we see 1 or 2 days of this. We're like, holy cow, that looks pretty bad. There's like 7 days of this. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, serious heat issues. So that the heat impacts every single day starting Saturday through the middle of next week are going to be in that extreme category. So really kind of worried we're going to see potentially some of the hottest weather we've seen in a long time. And there will be records. Record highs are pretty high this time of year, as you expect. So we'll be close to records. Hitting one of these records would not be crazy, but the fact that we could do it 5 days in a row is kind of the oddity of all this. It's the duration of this. And this was something I talked about online today was 100-degree days. If I had to ask an average Charlottean or a North Carolinian or South Carolinian, they would probably tell you it gets to 100 all the time. The problem is it just doesn't. There's areas like Fayetteville, maybe Columbia, areas in the coastal plain where that happens quite a bit. But in the Western Carolinas, it's not, especially in Charlotte, 100 degrees is pretty rare. In fact, in the last 10 years, look on the chart there. We had 5 of them in 2015. We had 1 in 2022, 1 last year, and 1 this year so far. So you do the math. That's only 8 in the last 10 years. And since 2000, which is 25 years, quarter century, 25 times. So that averages out roughly to 1 a year. I looked at data today, which blew my mind even. In that same time frame, 25 years, we had highs in the 70s. Highs in the 70s during the summer months, June, July, and August, 139 times. So that's like 6 times more likely than 100 degrees. That kind of blew my mind even that we saw that frequently highs in the 70s, which makes my point that if it was 79 today, we'd all be saying, wow, that's wild. That's crazy. That's really abnormal. Would you say 79 in the middle of July is abnormal, James?
No, but I welcome it.
I would, right now I'd take it. But that's 11 degrees below average. Now, if we flip that, 11 degrees above average is 101, which is what we're forecasting for the weekend. So both of those are what we call anomalous temperatures or outliers. 79 and 101 are not normal in Charlotte in the summer. And you got to treat both of those kind of equally in some ways. So the forecast for the weekend, the numbers look jumbled together because we're not used to putting triple digits on there. A lot of our graphics were not designed to have 3 digits in there. So 76 and 100 on Saturday, 101 on Sunday. And the thing about dry conditions like this, as the heat wave builds, it can build on itself. There's an old saying that I used to hear all the time that drought begets drought, but heat waves also beget heat waves, which means as the ground dries out, the sun heats the ground up. It causes the ridge to be stronger, and over time you can end up getting hotter and drier. Because if you think about it, when the ground has got water or moisture in it, the sun's energy goes into evaporation. When the ground is dry, the sun's energy goes into heating the air. So this could be a doozy of a heat wave. So that stretch right there, 7 days from Friday to Thursday, the average high there is 100.4 degrees. The average low is 77.6. That would be the hottest 7-day period in Charlotte's 147 illustrious years of record keeping.